Welcome to Author Update, your weekly dose of publishing news that actually matters to your career.
First, the AI invasion is real, and it's worse than you think. A new study reveals that 82% of herbal remedy books on Amazon this year were likely AI generated. Here's the kicker: this might not just be that genre.
It's every genre. Second, is your book optimized for the AI future? We're going to be answering some burning questions, particularly related to generative engine optimization. This is how AI determines which books to recommend and whether Google Books may just be the key for boosting your rankings.
Third, Hollywood just posted its worst October box office in over 40 years. When you adjust for inflation, we're actually talking about the weakest performance since 1982. That's 3 years before I was born. That is insane. So, we'll break down why corporate slop is dying and what this means for indie authors who now have an opportunity.
And its impact on the zeitgeist. You may have to stick around for
Like
that
I
story for the end. And if you don't know, we cover cultural stories at the end. So if you're here for the hard hitting news, that's at the very beginning. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast. We're also going to be talking about a cultural earthquake in music. We have several zeitgeist stories this time. And for the first time in 35 years, there are 0 rap songs in the Billboard Top 100. And AI artists are topping the music charts. This is a huge cultural earthquake happening all over all of the creative industries. And as authors, we get like months of warning because it tends to hit the other industries first. But don't think we're going to have years of warning. We are not. In fact, we may not have any warning at all. It may already be here. But we also have, speaking of AI, some big announcements related to some cool Patreon Toolbox tools, updates, and more. But first, we're going to do quick hits. So we have really quick news stories that aren't worth a big segment, but they're worth a short segment. And the first one is about Oxford University Press. Jonathan?
The Oxford University Press has announced plans to lay off 113 employees as part of organizational changes. This will be primarily in its education and English language teaching divisions. The proposal, which is currently in a collective consultation phase, comes amid broader industry pressures like rising costs and growing indie market share. BookBub has added a romantasy category to their featured deals list. I caught this one because I got the email from it, and I write fantasy, so this is a big deal. Every time I have submitted for one of those daggone featured deals, they don't want me because romantasy is the hot thing. Well, now they've actually subdivided fantasy.
And all the
Romantasy
fantasy
now
authors celebrated as the romantasy authors went off to have their own party in their own room.
That's right. Get out of here. So, Romantasy now has its own category when it comes to feature deals. So now competition for the fantasy category for feature deals is going to be divided. If you no longer have to make your heroic, epic, dark fantasy. Have a romantic something in it so that you can try to get a feature deal on it. How do I spend this so that I can get my feature deal? All right, next.
And our next quick bit is that there's an improved patron tool. There's actually a bunch of improved patron tools, but the one I'm most excited about is the book cover designers. This is the most popular tool every month, and it is a tool where you describe your book and it generates a book cover for you. Now, I've never recommended that authors use this for their book covers, their actual book covers. I've recommended it for like helping you communicate with designers or for a reader magnet. Although I have gotten feedback back from authors who have found that their book cover designer covers are outperforming their human designed covers on split tests on Facebook. The big change is that it now will give you 2 covers instead of 1, and each cover is generated by a completely different large language model from a completely different company. So you now get a GPT Image 1 cover and a Google Nano Banana cover. You don't need to know what those words mean, but if you know, you know. These are the top shelf models from each company. We've been having some trouble, particularly with GPT Image 1 failing. And so now if one of the models fails, because they're a little bit unreliable right now, the other one will still give you a cover. So you won't always get 2 covers, but hopefully the likely likelihood of you getting 0 covers will be reduced by 50%. That's where we are with AI right now. Like, the changes and iterations are happening so quickly that a lot of the tools are just not that reliable. But hopefully this tool is more reliable. And this leads us to our first main story, which is GPT 5.1 was released just, I think, 48 hours ago as we record this. Jonathan?
Yay.
We have a new bestest best model.
Yay, I'm so happy. All right, so ChatGPT 5.1 is an upgrade to their flagship AI model. It's already making waves in the creative world. It builds on GPT-5 with enhancements that are aimed at making interactions feel more natural and efficient. So think warmer tones, smarter reasoning, customizable personalities, because I need it to have a personality.
No, this is actually very useful. So the customizable personalities allows you to fix the sycophancy of ChatGPT. So you can say be friendly and encouraging, or you can say be analytical and critical, or even like
I don't want
cynical.
I don't want it to have a personality.
Well, it's going to have this is basically a way of prompting it how honest/friendly on the honest to friendly continuum. How honest/friendly do you want the AI to be? Which I think is actually a really good improvement. The use of the phrase personality, I don't care for, because it entices you to humanize the AI, which I think is really bad for your mental health and possible spiritual health. But one of the things, the AI tools, if you're using the toolbox, you don't have to worry about personality, because I've beaten the personality right out.
Good.
So this is specifically for ChatGPT. The ChatGPT interface will now have personalization and tone controls, which is going to be really helpful. And the ability to answer fast or slow is, I think, really helpful as well. It already had this, so this isn't a big change. But one, Sam Altman actually tweeted, I think it was this morning, he's like, it will now listen to you if you tell it not to use the M dash, which, as somebody who hates the M dash with a burning passion, is very good news. And for somebody like Jonathan, who actually used the M dash before he started using ChatGPT, it will mean he can maybe in the future start using it again without people assuming that it was generated by AI. Because man, my goodness, does AI love the M dash.
It also loves emojis. If you're generating market, we'll talk about that later. But
ChatGPT likes emojis. The other AIs don't like emojis quite so much. And actually, its use of emojis now, I think, will be determined somewhat by which personality you give it. So if you give it you pick the friendly and encouraging model, it's going to carpet bomb you with emojis. Whereas if you pick the like academic mode, it's probably not going to carpet bomb you with emojis.
So there's some features on it that you can keep an eye out for if this is something you're looking for. It does have dual modes for tailored responses. So there's an instant mode, which will give you like quick, casual queries. It'll give you snappier replies, right? Ideas for rapid idea generation. If you're going thinking mode, which is for complex tasks with deeper analysis, like research, plotting an intricate narrative, something like that, you can now switch between those modes, so it's not going to overthink your request on, hey, how long should I cook this brisket for? It's not going to try to overthink that by trying to oversource the answer. However, if you're going to ask it like, hey, I'm writing this epic dark fantasy and I need BookBub to accept it for a featured deal, how do I accentuate the romantic elements?
What I don't know is if, like Grok, it lets you change modes mid-answer. So one of the things I really like about Grok is that if it's taking a long time to answer and you just wanted a quick answer, you can click the answer faster button, or you can click the think harder button. So if you don't have to decide before you ask the question which mode you want the answer in, which is really nice. Somebody was commenting that they liked my haircut, and I will say this is part of me turning 40. I'm trying not to have too much of an existential crisis about turning 40.
I'm here for it.
So I might give away on my actual birthday 40% discounts on a bunch of stuff. So make sure you're subscribed to the Author Media newsletter. I won't give away discounts on anything that's going to be a bigger discount and as a Black Friday deal, because we are going to do a Black Friday discounts. So I need to sort through that and also sort through what I want to do with the rest of my life. because
we've crested the hill. Now we're looking at the down.
I really thought I was going to be in politics by now. I was in high school, like picked the most likely to be a political figure by my homeschool choir teacher.
Well, Thomas, I thought I would be dead. So you've got to figure. I'm like, wow, I have to look at life now.
So our next story is about Google Books and the Google Books library and whether or not it's critical for GEO. And I've done a lot of episodes on GEO, which is generative engine optimization. This is how large language models decide what books to recommend and how they kind of understand the world around them. I've done a lot of episodes about that on how important your website is and also how important Goodreads is, particularly, and also Amazon to a lesser degree. But what some people are noticing is that OpenAI particularly and Gemini as well are using the Google Books library to kind of reduce hallucinations when talking about books and to make sure that they're talking about the right book. And so it's a good idea to make sure that your book is in all of its information on the Google Books library is correct. This is good standard metadata hygiene. If you've listened to my episode about metadata, you already know to do this. Metadata is more important than it's ever been before, but it was always important. It was important all the way back in the 1800s when the Dewey Decimal System was invented as a form of metadata. It's like metadata has always mattered for authors.
Yeah.
It really matters now. I am in the process of building a GEO analyzer. I was hoping to have it ready for this episode, but it's not quite ready yet. But what it will do is help you identify what websites a particular large language model uses for knowledge about your particular subgenre and books with your particular tropes. And so you can, and it will then give you a list of those websites and strategies for getting your book featured on those websites. So it'll help you with all of the GEO kind of off of your particular website. But for now, make sure all of your books have accurate information on Google Books library. I could not find any evidence that Grok used the Google Books library. So, but when I build out the tool, you'll be able to get a better list of sites for your specific subgenre. Because there's certain genre websites that certain AIs really lean on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not listed, if you've never been reviewed by that particular subgenre website, it's like you don't exist, or that quality signal isn't signaling for your book. So this is something to know about, and something we will continue to cover. But I wanted to at least drop in the Google Books library matters. Make sure that you're on it. You don't have to be for sale in Google Books for your book to be in the Google Books library, but I think you do need to have your ISBN info through Bowker, which if you listen to my metadata episode, you know to do. Don't use free ISBN numbers.
Correct.
It's not worth it.
Guys, like you have to think of this like you are the college-age girl at a Bible college trying to be noticed by the guy, okay? So you have to know where the guy is and where to be found by the guy. In this case, SEO or GEO, those crawl bots are going through and you need to have your information in a place where the bot will see you. You need to be prominent in those places. And like I said on the Yoast SEO update like a couple weeks ago or something like that, most crawl bots are using Google's database still. So they're still using the same source data SEO was using, and now they're calling it AIO. So if your book is in Google Books, you're not looking for sales there. You need your metadata to be there so that you're found.
And a lot of the AIs are doing Google searches now, or they're doing Bing searches that are modeled after Google searches.
Yes. Yeah. They're calling it something else. It's a Google.
Well, so a lot of the other search engines really try to be as similar in their results to Google because Google is kind of the gold standard. And so your rankings on Google really matter for your AIO. All right. Speaking of bots, 82% of the Amazon Herbal Remedies books published in 2025 were likely AI written. What? Jonathan, tell me it's not true.
Has anyone ever seen The Happening when the plants started killing humanity? Now plants are using AI written books to do that. I read this study from originality.ai, and I read through it. It postulates that a staggering 82% of books in Amazon's herbal remedies category this year were likely written, at least in part, by AI. The study was conducted by, like I said, Originality AI, and it analyzed 558 titles that were published on Amazon's US site between January 1st and September 30th. They focused on books that had a 4-star average rating, available in paperback in English, and first published this year. This is important
let me
for
pause you real
weeding
quick.
out.
Yeah, let me pause you real quick. So these are not slop, right? These are not 2-star rated books. These are books that if you were on Amazon, you're like, oh, 4 stars, 4.5 stars, 5 stars. This looks like a real book. Okay. So a lot of people are like, oh, it's a 2-star book. Obviously it's AI. No, that's not what we're talking about. Okay, keep going.
So they used a detection model that they like to use, Light 1.0.2. And they scanned previews, summaries, and author bios. So they didn't buy the books. They just did the previews, bios, and summaries. Out of those 558 books, 457, which would be 82%, showed AI fingerprints in at least some of the content, with 77% using AI across all 3 text categories. Even more alarming, 96% of the books had some likely AI-generated elements. It highlighted patterns that started to scream AI slop. AI books were cheaper. They averaged about $18.51 versus $21.68 for a human written one. They were shorter, 173-page average versus 225, and they got fewer reviews. It was about 20 versus 35 on average. This is not just isolated to the herbal remedy category. It is pretty symptomatic of a larger invasion, which we've been predicting for a while. Publishers Lunch calls it a distressing epidemic. These books dominate niches with unverified, potentially dangerous advice. And if you guys have ever gotten any advice from ChatGPT, you know it's like hallucinating when it doesn't know what the answer is. And that's not great when you're like, hey, I have brain cancer. What do you think I should do?
Although it has gotten better on the hallucination. And I will say, Grok is very useful with this prompt. So I'm going to give you a super prompt you can use with Grok. And that is fact check this : and then you just paste in a paragraph or two from your blog post or from your book or whatever. And it will research the heck out of that particular paragraph or page or chapter or whatever and try to disprove it and prove it. So it's actually pretty good at fact checking, but it won't do it if you don't ask it to. So the biggest thing that jumped out at me was the 96% of books had some AI generated elements. What this tells me is that everybody's using AI, at least for the marketing piece, because one of the things that's scanning is the book description, and AI is so much better at generating book descriptions than almost all authors and almost all marketing people at almost all publishers. So at 96%, that means a lot of even the marketing people at the publishers are creating book descriptions and Amazon pages with AI. And I don't think that's bad. Obviously, I build tools that help authors do that. But it does mean that, the authors who are kind of shoving up the glass and like, I don't use AI. Well, they are probably at least using it for the marketing. And the big takeaway here is this is not isolated to herbal remedies. So this study was released for free by Originality AI as a way for them to get promotion for their service, which checks for AI fingerprints, which, they're getting free promo on our podcast right now. Right. So it worked.
If you're paranoid about this, go use their tool. I mean,
yeah, I suspect that you would find similar percentages in every genre. And I think the quote unquote cliff that a lot of authors are talking about, or some authors are talking about, where their royalties have fallen off a cliff in 2025, when we're not seeing that in the industry. People are spending as much or more. In fact, they're spending absolutely more money on ebooks than ever before. So indie authors are making more money than ever before. And I think the authors that are seeing their royalties decline are having a hard time competing with this flood of AI books.
So Jaina asks, how accurate are AI detection tools like the one that Originality is using? These things mostly just try to correlate the most used things. Like AI will tend to default to certain buzzword. We would call them buzzwords, or corporate speak or something like that. And when I read through the study, they talked about their methodology and how they did that. They've checked like 200 keywords and like 73% of the books in the category that were marked as AI were all using the same keywords or some combination thereof. Because AI, the more you iterate it, the more it's going to spit out the same results. Whereas when you get human brains working, we got some wonky ideas sometimes that you think this keyword applies to your book somehow, or you think this is going to give you a strategic or tactical advantage in this, that, a robot just isn't going to do. The robot's just going to go for the most proven. It's not going to get weird with it.
We covered a study, I think it was last week, about how AI readers preferred AI written books to MFA written books. And one of the things that was interesting about that study was that when they were loading in famous authors' writings into into the RAG memory, the subsequent writing was undetectable as AI writing because it had the idiosyncrasies of whatever author they were modeling. And so if somebody is actually AI savvy, if they know what RAG is, if they know how to interact with the AI through the API rather than through an interface like ChatGPT, which there are authors who are this sophisticated and are doing this quite effectively in fiction and generating a ton of books and making a lot of money. It's not me, by the way. I'm not doing it.
But I know how.
I think that kind of approach is not going to get picked up by Originality.ai's fingerprinting. So the actual numbers could be higher. That said, I think there's some books that probably are written purely by human, but they're using AI for the marketing.
Yes,
the description. And so in some ways
common.
It might be higher, in some ways it might be lower. But the reality that everybody needs to kind of come to grips with is that there's this massive flood of books, and this is just the 4-star nut books. And so they're not counting and a tsunami of 2-star AI books that are so obviously AI that everyone can see that it's AI. And I want to give a warning to the industry about this flood of slop. And it's not just AI slop, but also corporate slop, which we're going to be talking about in the Zeitgeist segment. So while we save the Zeitgeist segment for the end, we tease it the whole episode.
That's right.
And that is the video game crash of 1983. So this was before I was born. But in 1982, the video game industry made $3.2 billion on video games. And in 1983, the video game industry made $100 million on video games. This was a 96% drop in 1 year. And what happened was there was a flood of slop on the Atari platform specifically. And there was so much slop, so many poorly made video games, that people came to a conclusion that they didn't like video games as a category, because the last 2 or 3 video games they purchased weren't fun. And so they're like, I don't like video games. When in reality, they just weren't liking the terrible video games that they were playing. And for about 2 years, the video game industry went through this dark night of the soul, where almost all of the video game companies went out of business. Almost all of the manufacturers went out of business. And the industry didn't emerge until this playing card company from Japan came out with a console that they insisted on approving every game that was made for the console. And that's a little known company known as Nintendo. And this playing card
they're
company...
not big. You probably haven't heard of them.
You may not have heard of them, but they're not really into playing cards anymore, although you probably can get Mario on a playing card, so it's probably come full circle. And so Nintendo still gatekeeps the Nintendo platform pretty significantly, although not nearly as well as they used to. But they fixed the industry overall, and they used human vetting, and they also charged a fee. And so not only did they have to approve your game if you're a video game company to be on the Super Nintendo, but you had to pay them like $8 a cartridge or something. It was, which doesn't seem like a lot, but remember, this is 1985. This was this is less than 20 years after we went off the silver standard. $8 back then was real money. You could feed a family of 5 at McDonald's for $8. So that was a pretty big investment. And by doing that, they saved the whole industry, but specifically they established themselves as a beacon of quality. And this, I think, is a real opportunity for authors. And I've been recommending this a lot, but authors reading books and making recommendations. I've got an episode coming up next week where that's a key strategy. It actually helps you get into authors also bots. So if I want to be in Jonathan's also bots, one really good way to do it, where customers who bought books from Jonathan also bought books from Thomas, is if I recommend Jonathan's books to my readers.
Yes.
Right? There's nothing he can do to keep me from doing that. And he probably wouldn't even mind. But the more that authors are vetting books, as the number of options just becomes overwhelming and the amount of AI slop becomes a tsunami.
Right.
The fact that Thomas Umstattd recommended this book, read it, and recommended it.
Thomas Umstattd, known human.
Known human, right. So we'll get to other ways of proving humanity in the later Zeitgeist segments. But Jonathan, what are your thoughts on this flood of AI written books?
So in this study particularly, as I was reading through it, I saw a lot of bias in the investigative process. It was clearly somebody who didn't like AI, which is fine. You can not like AI. That's cool. It did bias his report. He kind of ignored a couple of general things, which is most marketing copy is crowdsourced anyway. All marketers are copying each other to do what works the best, and AI is just doing that better. It's probably correct on the numbers that it's giving out, but I think it's ignoring the motivations. It's ascribing negative motivations for using AI. For instance, maybe somebody was writing an herbal remedy book, but English wasn't their first language, and so they had AI rewrite it for them.
And this connects with another story. I'm actually going to pull it forward because this can keep going. I'm going to pull the next story in.
And then, of course, it's a productivity enhancement. You know, if I can have AI write my marketing copy after I read my book or feed my book into it, I'm going to do that because most authors' brains don't write marketing very well. We want to tell the whole story, and we don't think enough about writing just the hook, just to get somebody to buy, to make a financial decision. And authors are scared of making people make financial decisions. I mean, we're terrified of it. Well, I don't know if my book is worth $4.99. Gotta be freaking kidding me.
So some people will run their book through one of my book blurb tools, and they're like, "This makes my book sound better than it really is. You know, should I use this?" And I'm like,
"That's called marketing, you dweeb."
So one, edit your book to be worthy of the blurb. And a lot of authors, when they're promoting their book, like, I wrote a book, it's okay, you might like it. It's like, no, that is terrible marketing.
Here's my recommendation.
You've got to believe in your book if you want people to believe in it. You have to be convinced that it's worth reading.
Okay. Like, when you get those scam emails from the Nigerians saying, I read title of book in brackets, and it spoke to me on this, and just how it pulled out this, take that, rewrite it a little bit, and make that your Amazon description. It's better than what you had.
So, talking about AI generated books, Amazon is now going to be the #1 source of AI generated books through their AI translation service. Yes. Actually, I had an author friend of mine, best-selling author, sold millions of copies, and she emailed me and she's like, if this is what AI is, I love it, because with a click of a button, she was able to translate her book into all of these other languages. And a lot of authors are thinking of it this way, of like, oh my goodness, I can push a button and my book can be in German and my book can be in French. But it also, that knife cuts both ways. And all the German and French authors are absolutely pushing the button to take their books and put them into English, because the US market is by far the most lucrative market for authors. In fact, almost every Australian and New Zealand and even British author I know, they make more money from the US market than they make from their own domestic market. And this is partly because America still has a reading culture, more so than a lot of these other countries, but it's also because Americans are so much wealthier than other countries. We don't realize just how much wealthier Americans are than Europeans. Like, people from Tennessee, I think, which is our poorest state. I remember I was looking into these numbers recently. The median income of our poorest state is approximate to the median income of the wealthiest nation in Europe that's not a micronation. The micronations mess with the numbers a little bit because there's a numerator denominator thing. That's neither here nor there.
Well, just ask yourself, how many Americans are dying every year because they don't have air conditioning in the summer? That's a great indication of the difference.
It's like a huge source of death in France because they just
Yeah.
can't afford air conditioning. So we think of Europeans as very wealthy because the wealthy ones will come here. But there's a lot of very poor Europeans, and because they're poor relatively, they don't have as much discretionary income for buying books. And so those foreign authors are going to start flooding the American market with slop, right? It's AI generated slop, but it's just AI translated, right? All the AI did was translate from another language. The core writing was provided by an actual human author. I think in general, this is a good thing. I would love to be able to read more foreign written books. I'm not surprised that Amazon is rolling this out because AI translation is really, really good.
Yeah.
It's the number one job that's being threatened by AI. Like literally, if you get the new Apple AirPods, it will in real time translate. So somebody speaking Spanish to you, it will cancel out their words and give the words to you in English while they're talking. The Babel fish exists.
Oh boy.
And this is Apple, which has the worst AI. Like nobody's got worse AI than Apple.
It's literally gonna be
Facebook.
like living in one of those old Japanese Godzilla movies. Hi.
I haven't. I was actually talking to somebody in Spanish, and I almost pulled out my phone to help with the translation. But I was able to make it work, and he knew a little bit of English. I knew a little bit of Spanish, but we're getting to the point now where so the Babel fish is this fish from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that if you put it in your ear, it will allow you to understand all of the alien languages, and it's I think the first like sci-fi technology that's really going to get deployed. And I have a sci-fi fiction idea. I'm going to pitch y'all this writing prompt, and I call it the Babel virus, where God curses the TCP/IP protocol and causes it not to function, which breaks the entire internet. Just like he cursed the human languages at Babel, he curses the computer languages and scrambles the TCP/IP protocol. So it's a true science fiction. You have to know what the TCP/IP protocol is and why it's important, but everything uses it. Everything uses it. And this is a free prompt for you to use.
Elaine has an interesting question. Do you know how AI translations do with humor? I write romantic comedy, and I'm worried that AI won't be able to get the humor across. Well, I'll tell you, it will do a better job than not having anything at all. So if you want to get like the nuances of language, humor does rely on nuance a lot. I mean, I watched a lot of Spanish movies when I lived in Mexico, and their sense of humor is just so different. I wasn't laughing at the show, and then they wouldn't laugh at a lot of American humor either, but then they would laugh at different points in the movie. We'd all be in a theater watching a movie, and my American family would bust out laughing at this one part. The rest of the theater's dead silent. So humor is very much like a cultural thing.
There are
AI
universal...
is going to do its best, but it's not going to, unless the model is really tuned, like it's really dialed in, you're not likely to get that nuance.
So in general, it's not going to work because it doesn't have the authority to rewrite it enough to make it work. So
Yeah.
I grew up reading the Asterix and Obelix comics, which were originally written and published in France in French. And they've won all kinds of awards for their translation because the humor is they're funny in English and they're funny in French, but the English jokes are all puns that play off of English words. And so they were rewritten enough where it's a totally different kind of humor. Sure, there's some narrative humorous elements, and the animations and the drawings are humorous, but the translator had to have the authority to really kind of stray from the original writings in order to preserve the humor. That said, some kinds of humor preserve really well. And the Minions are funny in every culture.
True.
Because they're very childlike, right?
Yes.
Children being silly is something that every culture can relate to. So the closer your humor is to children being silly, the better the AI will be able to preserve it from culture to culture. And the more it's like a commentary on culture, like Seinfeld. Like imagine like your typical Seinfeld's like,
Yeah.
you know what's crazy about airline food, right? Like for a culture where people have never been on an airplane, there's no way to make that joke work. So the closer you are to minions, the safer your humor is. The closer it is to Seinfeld, the more you're going to need a real human with some real authority to stray.
Your source material is what's going to matter as to whether it's funny to the culture you're trying to speak to.
Yeah.
If you're writing for a US audience and trying to be funny to Americans, then your source material, you just have to check it to see if it's going to be funny to the Chinese.
Anne says that the Kindle version of Les Miserables has a little footnoted explanations of French
You see,
puns.
if you want to put in that extra work, that's great. Okay. But if you're just going to
trust me, in the original French, this was really funny.
but only in this region of France. Everywhere else is just sparkling.
I will say, if you have to open up your joke with explanation, it's not going well.
It's not
going well.
Thomas learned this.
Now from something that's funny to maybe something that's not quite so funny. In a recent study, 60% of authors are now using AI. Jonathan?
So I read through this study too, and this is a really well done study. I really liked how they did the methodology and how they did the approach. They surveyed users that were in a large number of categories of writing. So we're talking content writing, marketing writing, fiction writing, technical writing, all these different fields. And they just asked them, how much are you using AI? If you use AI, how much do you like it? If you don't use AI, how much do you hate it? What tasks do you use it for? How many tasks do you use it for? How much editing do you do? Yada, yada, yada. Simply put, those who use AI the most swear by it, while those who don't use it at all are terrified of it. Focusing specifically on the writers who use AI for the widest variety of tasks, 92% say that it makes them feel more productive. 59% say they get higher quality results. And this was one of those hard data points that I really enjoyed. The professional writers using AI frequently had $47,000 higher incomes than non-users annually. That is a huge discrepancy. Despite negative press due to AI, only 1 in 10 writers working for corporations and agencies had seen colleagues laid off due to AI. Now, we are predicting ripple effects in the industry as a result of AI. I think if you're mediocre in your industry, you are going to go away because AI does mediocre great. It does it a lot more than you do, and it does it cheaper.
And I will say, for those of you with day jobs where you're potentially threatened with AI in your day job, do not complain about AI around your boss.
Ooh.
Because complaining about AI around your boss is saying to your boss, I can't compete with AI. Instead, you want to be demonstrating in work how AI helps you do your job better and how you're one of the super productive AI using employees, not one of the employees who's threatened because they don't understand how AI works, and the company would be better off without you. So just pro tip, whining about AI in front of your boss, not good for your day job career.
Among writing professionals, 61% use AI at least sometimes to aid in their work, and 26% of them used it daily. Only 7% published straight AI generated text. Most people are saying don't do that. The heaviest AI users are thought leadership writers, being 84% of them. Public relations and communications professionals, 73%, and content marketing writers, 73%. The writing professionals that are least likely to use AI in their work are copy editors, 33%, journalists, 44%, and technical writers, 52%, which the technical writer one kind of confuses me because that's like the easiest one to use AI for.
Well, yeah, it's the easiest to use AI for if you know how to load in information from RAG. But if you're creating the very first guide on some brand new technology, you have to basically, what you're doing is you're creating the text that then the AI will be trained on in the future. So actually, technical writers might be kind of safe in the sense that they are synthesized, depending on what kind of technical writing they do.
It depends on the technical writer, because if they have the engineer writing the thing in the first place, what they ought to do is have the engineer write the instructions and then have AI translate it into real English.
Yeah, because you can have AI read the code of software and then generate a manual on using that software from the code.
Yeah.
But I don't think our audience consists of many technical writers.
No, it doesn't. I'm just sorry. I got off on that. But it's great to use it for, though, especially if you do nonfiction, or if you write military fiction, like somebody, and you don't remember what's the proper sequence for firing the M203 grenade launcher that you learned one time 10 years ago. I like, oh, great. I thumb this release. I slide it back. I slot it in. I tuck it in. I call out clear. And ChatGPT checked me and says, yep, that sounds right, buddy. And I'm like, okay, we'll just shoot that off.
Back check it with Grok.
Grok's probably better at the M203.
Yeah, ChatGPT will always tell you that you're brilliant and your writing is perfect and you're beautiful.
Yeah. No, I got checked. I got checked by experts. So I did two at the same time. I ran it by ChatGPT just so I could get this line of work out of the way. But I also threw we call it a bolo, a call for fire. I threw a request into a military writers group. Hey guys, does this sequence sound right for the M203? And of course, it takes them about an hour or so to get back to me with it. So, I did both.
Okay.
So I did the one just for the quick, snappy, check me real quick, and then I got the actual credible one later on.
Now, I have one quibble with the methodology of this study. And it's not that the study is bad, but it's just something to be aware of. This study was surveying authors. And so all of these percentages that Jonathan is sharing is authors and their use or not use of AI. What it's not studying is books. Because remember, AI-enabled authors have a faster rate of output than non-AI-enabled authors, right? It's like the people with the bicycles and the people without the bicycles. And so the PR professionals, 73% of PR professionals are using AI. That probably consists of 80 or 90% of books because those PR professionals are able to write their books faster.
Sure. Yeah.
So
that's a good data point that should have been brought out. How much product is being put out by each of these each side of the fence, basically. Somebody was asking what a thought leadership writer is. This is one of those dumb motivational speakers. Okay, so I mean, as far as I'm concerned, all they say is trash.
I've given a keynote
speech anyway,
before.
so yeah, AI can totally do that. I was just watching Passengers last night, that Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence movie, and it had so many AI heads talking to them. It was funny to watch in this context. So as it turns out, 76% of the daily users tend to use ChatGPT, but the advanced users, the ones that are making more money, are tending to use Claude instead of Grammarly to help them with the writing things. That's because Claude has a better model for writing.
I will say I use ChatGPT for almost none of the new Patron Toolbox tools that I build. I find that ChatGPT is like a good starter. It's like AOL when you're first getting on the internet with your dial-up
and your computer screams in agony.
AOL's a good way to do it, and it's not terrible. But at some point, everybody grows past AOL, and Grok and Claude couldn't be more different from each other stylistically, and what their strengths and weaknesses are very different. If you were to kind of give them a stereotypical persona, Grok is your kind of autistic, nerdy friend who's socially awkward, but is just like insanely brilliant and will research something to the point of like, please stop. And they're like, no, go on. I have more to say. That's Grok.
You need this.
Whereas Anthropic is this like beautiful, social, really good with people, president of her sorority, and like really articulate, and everybody likes her, right?
Yeah. So there's this board game channel on YouTube, and it's doing great. You know why? They got this pretty articulate girl to give the how to play the board game thing, and they like just give her a script, and you can see her reading off a teleprompter and stuff. But she's pretty, she's articulate,
and all the nerdy guys are like,
nerds are like, ah.
Please go on. So anyway, speaking of tools that don't use ChatGPT, I have renovated or revamped the plot synopsizer. So this is one of the very first patron tools that I built, and the early versions of it. Now, what it does is you would upload your manuscript, and then it would create a plot synopsis. And when I first built it, I think it was using ChatGPT, and ChatGPT really struggled with longer books. because the context window wasn't big enough. It's now running on a version of Grok that can go up to 2 million tokens, which means that it can handle the longest possible book that you upload to it. And the other difference now is that when you used it, the version 1, you had to ask it, what do you want? A short plot synopsis, a medium-sized one, or a long? Now it gives you all three, and it will tune them, or it gives you kind of an analysis for editors and for film and for marketing, and it's much smarter, it's much more aware, and it's way easier to use now. So now all you have to do, you type in the name of your book and you upload your book and you click create plot synopsis, and you see it give you all of the plot synopsis. If you are wanting to be traditionally published, this is really helpful. If you need a plot synopsis for any other use case, authors hate doing this. This does a really good job. It also will give its best guess as to which story structure you used. Although, if you're really wanting help with that, I have another tool called the Structure Analyzer, which is tuned to focus more specifically on which story structure you used to write your book. And with all of the Patron Toolbox tools, if you're a patron, you get access to all of the tools for free. If you're at the $10 level a month or higher, you also, if you're a patron, get access to the patrons only Q&A, which is coming up. And I just realized how we're running short on time. So let's go to our Zeitgeist segment.
There we go.
So our Zeitgeist segment this is a super segment. I don't know how we're going to get to my patrons on Q&A. And it's about corporate slop. So we've been talking a lot about AI slop, and we're going to get to AI slop in the future. But what's enabling AI slop is corporate slop, where the AI slop is often better than the corporate slop. And our first example of this is that it's maybe the worst box office in 40 years, but that's just as far back as I took the numbers. If you adjust for inflation, it may have been the worst October box office ever. Or maybe 1982 was just really, really bad. So tell us about
you have to
this,
understand how a movie is made these days. There's a lot of authors now who will refuse to let a movie studio take their book, because you'll have the creator, which would be the director or somebody who has a vision or something like that. But then you have 5 or 6 or 12 producers come in, and these are studio representatives, and these are people who are like, oh, well, we're going to change. You know what? Make them black. You know, like, just completely switch this character around entirely. So for instance, in Dune, right? They took the one character who was Cheney's grandfather, I think. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but they took him and they changed him to an African-American female, which was not a terrible change, by the way. I really liked her performance and I thought it was great. But it is exemplar of, you know what, the studio feels this change needs to be made to your story. And so corporate starts messing with the story.
Everything becomes designed by committee.
Yes. And that's the worst way to do anything. Has anyone ever worked on a group project? Write your book as a group project where everyone has to approve every decision. Do that. See how well it works.
And what's the very first thing that a committee kind of polishes off a creative work is the personality of the creator. And when there's no creator's personality left in the creation, suddenly how is it any better than something made by AI? Right? It's lacking its personality. It's lacking that clear creative vision. And the defense is, well, if we give all of the control over to this creative person, they might make bad decisions. And that's true. And it's not like there were no flops 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
Look at M. Night Shyamalan. He had like first great 5 movies, right? I mean, The Sixth Sense, anything up to The Happening, or really the thing that killed him was The Last Airbender. But his movies before that were fantastic. I still watch Signs. I still watch The Village, which is one of the best movies ever made. But, you know, he has his stamp on these things. You know you're watching a Shyamalan movie because his personality is put on it. You know you're watching a Quentin Tarantino movie. And those are almost all uniformly bad. But you know you're watching one.
It's not uncommon for the Critical Drinker review on YouTube to have more actual views than the movie does selling of tickets. And one of the things that the Critical Drinker has is a whole lot of personality.
Yes.
And people prefer the Critical Drinker
He's
YouTube
mean.
version where he's just telling you about the movie for 7 minutes than actually watching the movie, because the actual movie has so little personality. And that's
Yeah.
what people are desperate for. And if you're wanting to compete against corporate slop coming from big traditional publishers, which have the same problem, right? If you're a traditionally published author, there's a whole committee at Pub Board who's approving your book or not, and then there's a whole committee of people and sensitivity readers and all these different readers now, beta readers provided by the corporation, that will buff off your personality. And you have to be very careful to protect your author voice if you don't want your book to become corporate slop if it's published by a traditional publisher. Now, if you're indie, you're not protected necessarily, because you could totally be like M. Night Shyamalan's sixth film, which was awful, right? Because there is a sense that George Lucas had too much power
Yes.
over the prequels.
So the first Star Wars movie was studio corrected, and that was why it became something good. So in that usage case, it actually was a great thing. But he also didn't he have Spielberg with him?
You know, he had his wife. So the big difference was for the Star Wars films, George Lucas's wife helped him with all the romance and with the dialogue. And the two things that were weak in the prequels was the romance and the dialogue, because his wife divorced him and ran off with the painter of their mansion.
Probably because he was terrible at romance.
George Lucas built his wife a mansion, and she fell in love with one of the construction guys, divorced him, took half of his money, and he was so bankrupted that he had to sell the portion of Lucasfilms that handled computer graphics. And there just happened to be this computer guy named Steve Jobs who bought that portion of the company, turned it into Pixar, and that's how it gets Toy Story. But we're way off topic, and we need to move on, because Hollywood isn't the only corporate creative industry in turmoil. There are no rap songs, or at least a couple weeks ago, there was no rap songs in the top 100, in the Hot 100 top 40 for the first time in 35 years. So since 1990, there has always been a rap song in the top 100 or Hot 100 top 40 until today. And I think that I have some theories as to why this isn't in some, and I'm curious to hear you, Jonathan, but I think what really killed it was the corporatization of rap. So hip hop and rap as a genre has always been a kind of an outsider medium, kind of a raging against the machine, pointing out the flaws in society. It's not a good genre to be run by a corporate committee. And if you look on the charts on iTunes, a lot of the top hip hop songs have been from Tom McDonald. If he's got a song that came out that week, he's almost always on the top 100. And he's got songs like "The Devil is a Democrat" and a song about Charlie Kirk, right? Like, he's very anti-establishment. And what anti-establishment means now often means being conservative rather than being leftist, right? So the establishment has changed, but the corporations making the decisions are the establishment,
right?
And they've kind of co-opted, and they're leftist. And if you look at the rappers who are doing really well, because I listen to a good amount of rap, particularly indie rap, and the rappers who are doing the best are people like Connor Price, Tom McDonald, Dax, and it's been very fascinating to watch. Dax has gone through like a religious conversion over the last few years. When I was researching this piece, I watched some of his new stuff and was like, when did this guy become a Christian? His music became very Christian. And his previous persona was like kind of chaotic evil, like the Joker, kind of evil laughter. And now he's like preaching about getting sober and not drinking alcohol and like repenting of sin and like worshiping Jesus. And like, what happened to you, Dax? This is incredible. Connor Price is a Christian. Tom McDonald is going through this. So one of the things that's happened in corporate music is it's become very satanic. If you watch the Grammys, they literally have people like worshiping Satan in the performance, dressing up like Satan, doing sacrifices. Like, it used to be kind of this conspiracy theory of like, this heavy metal music is satanic. And now they're just like, here's my song, worshiping Satan. It's like, it's not a conspiracy theory anymore. But the thing is, there's some people who are into that, but a lot of people are like, I don't really want music to worship Satan. In fact, they're like, I'd rather listen to something made by AI than some corporate slop that's worshiping Satan.
That's
right?
been
Like
weird
if
for me
those are
this
the
week.
choices,
Yeah.
they're like, and it's interesting because some of the AI music that we're going to get to, because AI music is now topping the charts, not the hip hop charts yet, but the country music #1 country music song right now is an AI song, and all. But we'll get there. We'll get there. But I think there's some other issues with the kind of shift away from hip hop. And Jonathan, I don't know if you listen to any hip hop music or what your
No.
thoughts on that.
I
The
don't,
chat
but
is flying faster than I can
but I track
read
it.
it.
I know I'm watching it. I'm I'm watching them. The thing with that rap is going through is the same thing that made corporate slop in the first place, which is lawyers. The reason why corporate culture exists and why HR exists and all the memes about The Office and Dilbert and everything exists is because of lawyers. Lawyers are the ones that said everyone has to mask. Because we'll get sued. And so it's basically everyone protecting themselves against being sued. So the
Lawyers
lawyers,
/ HR director energy.
yeah, the
There's some
lawyers,
real HR director energy in corporate hip hop right now. And I'm sorry, no hip hop fan is like, you know
I'm
what I
getting
want
there.
more of in this song? HR director energy.
Yeah, right, exactly. So you have, this energy now going into rap, which has been around for a while, which is enough time for it to get systematized. Before, you just had a bunch of angry guys who were doing their art. And if you want to call rap art, I'm being generous right now. I don't like rap. But you have these lawyers in HR now starting to get involved. And more, it's the PR reps. Because now there's a severe danger to an artist's livelihood if they say the wrong thing. Unless somehow you're Kanye West, because if you don't say that reputation damaging thing every 3 or 4 months, then you're not Kanye West. The problem is rap as content is, like Thomas is saying, it's outsider. It's provocatory. It is not meant to be establishment. It's supposed to be attack the system. It's supposed to be young and rebellious. And
but the young rebellious people are more like Charlie Kirk. In the current corporate rap is nothing like Charlie Kirk.
In the 90s, it wasn't.
Right.
Charlie Kirk could not thrive in the 90s because rap was what thrived in the 90s, because life was generally good. And so everyone attacked the system because, that's what it was. And then we got to the point where we're at now, where rap had its thing for a while, and there was a lot of deconstruction that happened because of rap. People attacked the family. People attacked clean living. They attacked the English language. There's so many articles right now on how the fact that if you speak cleanly, it's colonial. It's colonialism. You've been colonized. And it's stupid. It's stupid. I almost used another word there.
And that attitude doesn't understand what rap is, because rap was the one preservation of Western poetry and the Western poetic forms, because the Academy completely rejected rhyming and meter and formal structure for poetry. And the only place you could find that for decades was in rap, this counterculture, but it was rejecting that academic, elitist culture that had rejected the forms of civilization. And they're like, no, we're going to do this and we're going to make it competitive. We're not just going to have these forms, poetic forms, but we're going to do it in a very masculine way, right? We're going to have a rap battle that follows meter and rhyme.
Exactly. And you had dance-offs.
And
this was so great for that generation. They wanted to be in fights like this. And the movies that came out were just dumb, where it was like cheerleaders dancing off against each other and stuff. It was like dumb to me. Okay. But it really resonated with the people at the time. Okay. But now you don't have that anymore. We're not there anymore. Now people are more like, you know what? We need to get back to when life was good.
And the insiders and outsiders have shifted. And so rap as an outsider medium, kind of like blues as an outsider medium. The outsider perspective is get married to one woman, love only her, and have children with that one woman, right? That's the outsider anti-establishment position.
Actually,
now.
As of this past week, it's not anymore.
I still think that you could argue
it just transitioned. Like it
I
was,
disagree. I
and then
think
it
one
just
tweet does
transitioned.
not mean a
No, the
whole
polygamy
cultural
thing
shift.
is now the outsider position, and I'm making the prediction it's going to be way bigger
See, I disagree.
than.
Actually, I think that polygamy is exactly what kind of mainstream rap has been advocating for, right? Where the rapper brags about all the women that he has, and this whole like hypergamy, where you have one man and multiple women. The difference now is that people are trying to attach that to institution of marriage. But I think that the Christian sexual ethic, broadly understood, is very much an outsider um, position now. It's not mainstream. It's not supported by any of the major institutions, and it's becoming what actual popular rap. Like, if you want to, if you want to be a outsider now, you have to be more like Charlie Kirk and more like Connor Price and more like Tom McDonald and less like Eminem, uh, because Eminem is not Eminem anymore.
Right. He's not Eminem, and a lot of
He's
Eminem
lost
fans are
his
mad about
way.
that.
Yeah, he's lost his way, and he doesn't really understand what the insiders and the outsiders are. And while his technical proficiency at rhyming and meter and beats and all of that's still really good, people would rather listen to the Tom McDonald song on an Eminem beat than an Eminem song on an Eminem beat.
But you know what is really interesting from a zeitgeist perspective is, you know who still is popular and has been perennially popular? Weird Al. Because he's a genius with lyric and music.
I think that Weird Al has never been popular in the mainstream, but his weird, nerdy subculture is very
I
loyal
don't know.
to him.
He has a serious following. I don't listen to rap, but I love Amish Paradise. Love it. Okay?
All right, we need to move on to our next.
Yeah, we're moving on.
We're going quick.
For the people.
Somebody go bail me out. Go to if you're a patron, go to the patrons only Q&A link and just post in the chat there that Thomas might be a little bit late, because I want to hit all these stories together because they're all linked. And we need to talk about the AI powered artists debuting on the airplay charts, because it has happened and it will happen soon if it hasn't happened already in publishing. But we know for sure it's happened in music. Jonathan, what's the story?
All right. So one quick thing for the people in the chat. Me and Thomas are white. We are not doing a rap battle. Okay. I can't even rap presents. Okay. I'm not doing a rap battle.
A form of art without actually having any capability in that. I love watching football. Terrible at football. I love listening to rap. Terrible at rap. And I really enjoyed Dax's evolution, I will say. Dax, I was really enjoying doing research for this segment. And if you don't know who Dax or Tom McDonald are, there's a beautiful world of indie rap, and these guys are making a killing. They're making more money than the mainstream rappers because they're selling songs directly to their listeners. Tom McDonald makes millions and millions of dollars selling CDs. He sells like tens of thousands of CDs every album release, often because he sometimes doesn't make them available on Spotify. His whole business model is very copyable for indie authors, but AI.
Now I just have this visual of you in your office jamming out when you're not on the microphone. Anyway, moving on to the AI
Yeah,
stuff.
please save me.
All right.
This is not me having my 40th midlife crisis. I'm cool. I listen to hip hop like the kids. And like,
man.
you know, the kids don't listen to hip hop, right? That's why it's not in the top 40. Don't tell me that. I'm cool. I'm totally cool.
I'm awesome. Anyway, AI artists are starting to top the charts now. One is, I don't know how to say this correctly, Zanaya?
I think so. Zanaya Monet.
Zanaya Monet, which is an entirely AI-created R&B singer who's become the first known AI artist to debut on a Billboard radio airplay chart. The track is How Was I Supposed to Know? It landed on the adult R&B airplay chart in early November, and it charted, which is kind of
on the radio, I believe.
Yeah, on the radio.
Charting of the radio.
And then there's Breaking Rust, which is just the weirdest genre for AI to do well in. Breaking Rust is an AI country act that's taken things a step further by topping the Billboard Country Digital Song Sales Chart with Walk My Walk. That means country has gotten so sloppy that a robot can do better than most of the country guys who are singing. It is the first time an AI persona has hit #1 on a US Billboard chart. And Billboard is reporting that they think at least 6 AI or AI-assisted artists have charted in recent months. And this is not like auto-tune, because I remember the auto-tune controversy.
All the songs have auto-tune now.
All of them do. Yeah, absolutely. Even artists who are live performing probably aren't singing. We know about lip syncing. It's just hard for them to hear the music when there's a crowd screaming at them. So your live performance is a recording. This isn't like that. This is now the source material itself has been AI generated.
And I was talking with my wife about this, and I was playing this game with her that she did not like, where I was just playing song after song on Spotify and asking her if it was AI or not. She's like, I don't like this game. Because we want to be able to tell. We want to be able to know, oh, this is obviously AI. This is obviously
Right.
not AI. And when the humans are using autotune, it becomes really difficult to know when it's AI and when it's not AI. And what does AI even mean? So if you have a human who's guiding the prompting of the lyrics,
Right.
and guiding the instructions to Suno AI or whatever AI music generator that you're using, in some ways you have a human who's kind of playing the AI as an instrument, and
Yes.
the AI itself becomes the instrument. It's kind of like, well, oh, you just did that on AI. It's like, yeah, you just played that on a guitar. It's like, could you play guitar? Well, no, I
Right.
couldn't play guitar. Could you make this song on AI? No, I couldn't make the song on AI. So in some ways, the AI itself becomes
is an acoustic guitar
itself.
plugged into an amp now an electric guitar, kind of thing. No, it's a difference in sound. So you're looking at a different way of using AI. So now this line is getting really blurry because you have the purists who are like, no AI ever, don't touch it, to trust not the machine, make not a machine in the likeness of a human mind, all those kinds of stuff. And then you have, artists who are like straight up prompting, be like, write me this song, perform this song, come in with some cool beats. And then you have the most people, which are going to be the ones in the middle using it fairly realistically.
I think the ways to success, one way is Oliver Anthony, where Oliver Anthony is not with a major record label. He doesn't answer to everyone. His music has a whole lot of personality, and he writes the kind of music that a corporate control board would not approve of. And his country music is really good, although I think he often gets put on the blues charts, but he would never get played on the radio because he doesn't have those corporate connections and because they don't like the kind of message that he has. But Richmond, North of Richmond was a masterpiece, but all of his later stuff is also really good. I really like Oliver Anthony. I love listening to Oliver Anthony while driving through the Texas Hill Country with my windows down. It's a vibe. When y'all come to Austin, if you get a chance to rent a car and go drive through the Texas Hill
it's
Country,
like playing Sweet Home Alabama. Okay,
and listen to Oliver Anthony.
The right time for it.
I know he's not from Texas.
So here's
but it's very raw and it's very authentic. Well, hold on, let me finish this. The other approach is to kind of understand and embrace the AI and understand kind of what's happening. So there's this huge shift where people are thinking about making an AI song, and that's not what's happening. AI musicians, the humans using AI to make music, are making 1,000 AI songs, maybe 1,000 songs in a week under dozens of different names, artist names. And then they're using Spotify's machine learning algorithm to identify when the songs are good or not. So they're not using their judgment saying, I think the song is good. They're outsourcing their judgment to the algorithm. And so the algorithm will float up this song by Breaking Rust and put it at the top, which is not Breaking Rust's best song, in my opinion. Their Breaking Rust's best song is Whiskey Don't Talk Back. That stupid song's been stuck in my head all day. Doing research on this is risky, and now my Spotify algorithm is nothing but AI generated music. It's like, what have I done?
You poisoned your algorithm.
I'll never find the humans again. And so artists using AI will always win the numbers game. You can't. John Henry will never be able to hammer steel as hard as the machine is, right? At the end of John Henry's story, he dies. That steam engine is going to beat him. And so you can't beat the AI at the AI's game, but you can become like the AI and compete in the AI's game. And so you either have to embrace the AI and embrace kind of this rapid release, carpet bombing, let the machine learning algorithm determine what's good approach, or you have to go Oliver Anthony. I feel like those are the two paths to success that you can use as an author.
So you're going to have your, like I say this all the time, your voice is your most important resource. You need to refine your voice and become even more confident in your ability to create. And you want to be what AI needs to imitate in order to work, because AI has to draw from somewhere. And so you want to be the thing that people are prompting AI with. Give me this in the tone of Thomas Umstattd Jr. Yell at me about why I don't have a podcast yet in the tone of Thomas Umstattd Jr. Yell at me about my website's SEO. Like,
say Zeitgeist 3 times really loud in the voice of Thomas
your heels.
Umstattd.
So here's some practical takeaways on how this is going to affect our industry. It's hitting music right now. It is going to hit us too. All right. So don't do a pen name. The time for that is over. Right now, your most marketable trait is authenticity. Being able to prove you're human. I wrote this with my meat hands, which, is going to be a tagline of the show, I guess. Do a human narrated audiobook, even if you're reading it yourself. There was a big controversy on this on X a while ago for somebody who said, no, you need to have a studio doing it, so it's the best possible. I don't agree with that. I think an author is completely capable of telling their own story. They just need the confidence. Have the confidence to tell your own story.
It doesn't have to be you. You don't have to be the human narrating your audiobook, but it has to be a human, because AI, the kind of authors writing a dozen books a week with AI are not then paying $3,000 per book to have a human narrator narrate it. That's not how the game is played. And so when you invest the money as a signal, it's like the peacock feather saying, hey, I believe in this book. I'm a real human. I invested in this book and it has a human narrator. It's a really clear signal to readers saying, this is a real book written by a real human who's willing to invest real dollars. Because that's the other thing. AI doesn't have money, right? How do we keep the AIs off of authormedia.social? We should put up a paywall. It's only $9 one time, but that's all it takes to keep the bots out, because the bots don't have access to cash.
I'm going to create a stamp, since everyone else is doing this apparently. I'm going to create a stamp of approval and just says made by meat. We're just going to put that
typed with meat hands.
Books and audio. A meat hand, hand of Saruman, just slap it on there. Make sure you're growing your email list. You need to have your readers coming to you and need to have contact with them. Go out to farmers markets, go to the digital equivalent of farmers markets. Royal Road is a good place to grow this if you're within certain genres. Just make contact with people who are enjoying your journey and enjoying your product and your content that you are making, because people will grab onto that when they can't trust anything anymore that's coming out of corporate. All right. When Disney makes their full AI made movies, which they're gonna do, Coca-Cola is already doing entirely AI made commercials. That's coming, and people are not going to trust it, and they're going to reach for authenticity, which is always a return to local, indie, organic, grass-fed, whatever. You need to make sure that you are that, and that's part of your process of audience acquisition right now.
Another way to help compete with the AI is to go where the AI cannot go and be controversial in ways that AI cannot be controversial. And this is one area where conservative Christians have an advantage, because AI is uncomfortable with the Christian sexual ethic. The more conservative you are, the less likely you are to be replaced by the AI, which has a very woke bias. Even Grok, everyone's like, oh, Grok is the least woke AI. It's like, okay, it's still super woke. They're all very woke. It takes a lot of work, and you have to really know what you're doing to make a based version of these AIs, which we do have in the Patreon Toolbox. So, by the way, we have a 100% based AI that you can talk to, and it will answer very differently than you'll get even from vanilla Grok or from ChatGPT.
So when your voice is actually refined to a certain point, it is going to be offensive in some area. It's going to break those corporate rules that AI is not allowed to break. I released Semper Die 2 on Monday. And one of the things I did in there was like, I couldn't remember how this particular speech went. Hey, write me this speech from a sergeant major on this particular aspect of this particular thing. And it said, I can't do that. This breaks my rules. I was dying laughing. And then I had to go search YouTube manually to try to find how it was supposed to be phrased. Oh, it was so funny.
You should have tried Grok. Grok might have given you the speech. Some other things that you can do is sell direct. So using Kickstarter and Patreon, there's not a lot of AI on those platforms because of the friction of using those platforms and because of the need for that direct connection. Create video content, right? You are reasonably sure that Jonathan and I are humans because of this video content, and embrace interacting with your readers in real life. If you come to the Novel Marketing Conference, which we still have like a couple tickets left, most of the tickets are sold out, but there's still a few tickets remaining. You can find out more at novelmarketingconference.com, and you can come and meet us in real person, in real life, shake our hands, and realize that whether or not we're AI or not. And, you know, if it turns out that we're just holograms on screen, you can be angry with everybody else at the event. So one thing I will say is that, I guess that's enough we can say on this. A lot of people are angry at this, and they're disillusioned. They're like, this AI music is soulless.
Yeah.
But the corporate slop you've been listening to for the last 30 years has
never had
soulless.
soul.
Taylor Swift never wrote those songs. She might have written her very first songs, but there's a whole committee now that writes her songs. This is true for all of the artists. It's all been soulless the whole time, which is why we created this soulless corporate slop environment that the AI is really able to thrive in. And if you want to compete, you have to get that kind of edgy, human, strong personality, not for everyone kind of voice to kind of stand out, because AI is going to be able to make a generic country song about whiskey not talking back just as good as some corporate record label can do. Exactly. Or better put, the AI can create 1,000 of those songs, and the one that floats to the surface can outcompete the one song that the record label is able to make with the same amount of effort.
Let me leave you out with one story. This is the mentality I think authors should have. At the Battle of Marathon, when the Persians came and the Athenians forced them back, they attacked them at the landing. They didn't let them get off their ships, and they basically just killed them all in the water. The Spartans showed up late. And so when the Spartans showed up, all the Athenians were making fun of them because they hadn't shown up to the battle, which is like the Spartans' whole deal. You're supposed to be here. And the Athenians are doing it. And the Athenians are like, you've been making fun of us this whole time. You know what the Spartans did? They studied the Persians' weapons. So they took the ribbing that the Athenians gave them, but they went around and they studied the Persians' weapons. And for the next 20 years, they armed their helots in the training time of the summer. They armed their helots with the Persians' weapons, and they trained against those. And so when the Persians showed back up, just like the Spartans knew they would come back, 300 of them already knew how to fight Persians. And they held that ground, and they did such devastating casualties because they studied and they knew ahead of time that it was needed. So you see what's happening in music. Study the weapons. Know how to apply it. Don't just go to us. Go to other people who have good thoughts on how to counter AI slop, because you're countering corporate slop now. It's just robot-written corporate slop.
And don't be afraid to use tools that make your life easier. My son, my 5-year-old, was very excited because he got my wife bought him a 100-piece Spider-Man puzzle. And he was doing it all by himself. And so I walked by the table. He's like, "Look, Daddy, I did this all by myself." And he'd piece together Spider-Man in the puzzle. But he was like, "But I'm cheating. I'm looking at the picture on the box."
Like, how many Spartans at Thermopylae, if you gave one of them an M240 Bravo, would have been like, "No, it's not human enough.
And
I'm
so
not as connected to it."
And I was like, "No, son, this isn't cheating. This is how you do a puzzle. You look at the picture on a box. You're not more virtuous because you made your life miserable, right?"
Yes.
Somebody digging with a spoon is not more virtuous than somebody digging with a shovel. And somebody digging with a shovel is not more virtuous than somebody digging with a backhoe.
And someone gunning down hundreds of lightly armored attackers is not less virtuous than somebody doing it with a sword.
All right. I have now run into my time for the patrons only Q&A. So if you're a patron, I'm going to take a brief break. But the patrons only Q&A starts in like 5 minutes. Please, somebody rush over there and tell everyone while I'm late. Please like and subscribe to Author Update. We didn't get to all the news, but this is a very busy time for Author News.
It really is.
And we have K-Lytics reports and a lot more to cover next week. So do make sure to subscribe, make sure to ring the bell so you can be notified when we go live. Starting in December, we're likely going to switch over to the Author Update channel. So if you haven't yet, make sure to like the Author Update channel. We're going to be moving the live show over to the Author Update channel where you can already find clips. So if you want to share a Zeitgeist segment with a friend, you can do that at the Author Update channel. I'm Thomas Umstattd Jr.
And I'm Jonathan Sugar Jr.
Live long and prosper.
Babylon 5.